Morning Joe is one of my favorite cable news shows to watch, and it's largely because they're so bipolar. Sometimes they actually get things completely right, and then other times they get things completely wrong. And oftentimes they also contradict themselves and say something that is completely different than what they were saying just a few months ago. And there's a bit of that in the clips I'm going to show you. So they were talking about Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and I'm going to show you 4 clips here and do some commentary on it. So here's the first one.
Well, just on the Democratic side, I think you have a slightly different dynamic, which is that obviously Hillary Clinton lost, and so now there's an enormous amount of pressure from people who say, well, she lost because she was too close to the center, and we need somebody who's further out. And so there's a lot of, I think the momentum within the Democratic Party at the moment is very much toward...
Do you think she lost because she was too centrist?
I don't think that's...
I'm not saying I do.
No, I know, but are there... I mean, I understand that there are really rich guys that fund Democratic candidates and rich women that fund Democratic candidates running for president that think that Hillary's problem was she was too centrist. Do you take those people seriously?
Well, I think they're one part of the constituency, but I don't think they're the only ones, honestly, Joe. I think.
But I mean, do you think that? I guess a better way for me to state the question is: do you think that's what the Democratic Party's problem was in 2016? That they were too centrist?
No, I don't, and I obviously would hope that we will remain somewhere in a centrist position. I'm just saying that the people who advocated last time, particularly those who advocated for Sanders, are saying, you see, we didn't nominate someone who was robust enough and vocal enough from the left. And if we had done that, we would have won.
So right off the bat here, Morning Joe, or Joe Scarborough, finds it insane that people think Hillary Clinton was too centrist. But that's common knowledge. We all know during the campaign against Donald Trump, she was trying to get Republican voters. She was trying to appeal to Republicans. Why do you think her VP was Tim Kaine and not somebody like Elizabeth Warren? It's because she was trying to grab those Republican voters that she thought were disgusted with Trump so that they would come and vote for her. But not many of those voters existed, so she lost. Now, the other part of this is Joe Scarborough thinks that the rich donors are the ones that are pushing Hillary left? What? When has that ever been the case? So there may be a little confusion here because when I'm talking about left and right and center, I'm talking largely about the economic issues. So maybe Scarborough here is talking about the social issues and talking about how maybe Hillary focused too much on left of center or left-wing social issues. Yeah, I sort of agree with that. I do think that there was nothing wrong with the platform, but the problem was there wasn't enough of a focus on the economic issues. The focus was all put on the social issues, and that's part of the reason why she turned a lot of people off. But to think that it's the rich donors that are pulling her left, no, they're the ones pushing her to the center. I mean, I don't know what else to say here. This is obvious. We all know this. I think Morning Joe, knows this. So to act like it's the rich donors, there's a reason why the People movement was behind Bernie Sanders. Because he wasn't representing the rich donors. Hillary Clinton was representing the rich donors. The donors that wanted largely more moderate economic positions from Hillary Clinton, whereas Bernie Sanders was more progressive, more left-wing in his economic positions. So, no, it's not the donors pulling Hillary to the left. She was never being pulled to the left. She was always being pulled to the center, and she is a centrist. Now, let's go to the next clip where Morning Joe actually says something that I think is correct.
I don't think it has to do with ideology so much.
Exactly.
I just don't think it has to do with ideology. I saw Donald Trump walk on the football field last night, and I wasn't particularly pleased with it, but I turned to Meek and I said, look at that. You know what? When he walks out like that, I remember why he won. I remember why we were saying, which we were saying the last month of the campaign, because the Democratic Party is so condescending. And 90% of the people in those stands last night have grown up watching TV shows and listening to Democratic candidates being what they consider to be condescending to them.
So I disagree with him on the ideology point where he says it's not about ideology. I guess it depends how you define ideology. I think in ideology you include policy. So yeah, I do think it was largely because of policy. But at the same time, the Democratic Party, I agree, can come off as being condescending. And that's because of their ties to the rich donors, where they act like, oh, they know best because they're the professionals, they have all the money, they know what's best for you. When in reality, they don't. They have that money and they use that money to enact policy that benefits themselves, which is why we've seen all of the gains in wealth go to the top and everybody else left with scraps. But I do agree that in terms of just how Democrats are perceived, people like Nancy Pelosi, people do perceive those types of Democrats as talking down to them. Now, let's go to the third clip where things start to get a little crazy.
But the Democrats have to figure out how to win some rural voters again. How again, I mean, you look, Eddie, at the map of where Democrats won, where Hillary Clinton won. They're along the coastlines. They're confined to urban areas. They've got to figure out how to move beyond that. And maybe they will in 18.
So the point that Joe makes here isn't wrong. The Democratic Party does need to figure out how to get more rural voters, or just in general, excite people to come out and vote for them. And I have the exact response to that, which is Bernie Sanders. So in 2015, the Washington Post put out this article. In rural America, a startling prospect. Voters Obama lost look to Sanders. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders speaks to a crowd in Boston on Saturday. More surprising than his popularity among urban liberals is his appeal among the rural working class. So Bernie's popularity among rural voters was never a secret. We all already knew this. And here's a quote from the Detroit Free Press after he won in Michigan. While Clinton did better with urban votes, as expected, winning 57% to 39% according to the exit polls, that vote made up only 17% of the total voters. That's only slightly more than the 16% of voters from rural areas, where voters backed Sanders 57% to 43%, and far less than the 67% from the suburbs, which went for Sanders 52% to 47%. Okay, so I'm only showing you this to refresh your memory, because the next clip is when things get nuts.
At the heart of it is that everyday ordinary people made the judgment that the Democrats had not changed their fundamental circumstances, that
Right.
It was a judgment about the quality of their lives, and the quality of their lives simply had not improved, right? They were still catching hell. And
Right.
the Democrats said that they were in some way representing them. The Republicans said that they could affect their life. Nobody. The rich people were getting richer, but everyday ordinary people were catching hell.
Including
And
the
how
Democratic candidate.
And I got to say, how laughable before we get a break that Donald Trump actually convinced a lot of people that would normally vote for Democrats. I understand the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. This is a scam job.
Exactly.
And Wall Street insiders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then you look what he's done on health care. You look what he did on tax policy. It is the opposite of what he said he was going to do last
And
year.
look, all I'm trying to do is report. I mean, we can debate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
I'm just
Oh, I
saying,
know.
here's what's going on
I
in
know.
the
It's
Democratic
just-
Party.
it's just fun kind of
But to my point, if the Democrats were to nominate somebody like Bernie Sanders next time,
No.
is it going to move beyond the coast?
No.
With a candidate
Oh,
like
my
that?
God, no.
Nope.
Okay, so let me try and break down what just happened there. They were talking about how the Democratic Party can only reach the coasts because look at Hillary Clinton. She only got the most urban areas to vote for her. And then they talk about Donald Trump and how he's doing the opposite of a lot of what he said on issues like wealth inequality, on Wall Street, on healthcare, and on taxes. And then having them having said all that, Bernie Sanders comes up and they're asked, well, do you think Bernie Sanders could get those voters? Oh, no, impossible. No, definitely not. Not happening. Everything you just said is what Bernie represents. Anti-Wall Street, progressive taxes, Medicare for all. These are the issues. Rural voters. We were just talking about how good Bernie does in rural areas and how Morning Joe was talking about how the Democratic Party needs to find a way to reach those people. Bernie reached those people. Can Bernie win? No, Bernie can't win. Can't be Bernie. But why not? Because you yourselves, during the primaries, talked about Bernie Sanders. So let me play some clips here of what Morning Joe, all the great things Morning Joe had to say about Bernie Sanders during the Democratic primary.
I don't know that we've ever had a moment like Bernie Sanders where you've got a guy, little known, that sustains a campaign as long as he sustained a campaign. This is a real war, I would say, within the Democratic Party. But a lot of those people in the crowd, they aren't Democrats, they're independents.
That's right. And that was part of his problem in Kentucky. It was a closed primary. He's won in places where it's open and independents can go vote for him. He's done not well in closed primaries because he's counting on those independents.
This guy has raised close to $180 million.
Raised for 4 months in a row with no fundraisers.
Bernie Sanders, a Vermont socialist without taking Wall Street money, has outraised Hillary Clinton
with
for
no
4
celebrity
months.
platform.
No, yeah, and he's also raised $180 million. Average donation $27 a piece.
Again,
Bernie
not taking
Sanders
him seriously,
has started
even when he's trying
a movement. Bernie Sanders has started a revolution. Bernie Sanders could be elected president of the United States as an independent. He could be the first independent elected. If you want to know what the revolution has been in 2016, it has not been Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a one-off. He is a celebrity who has been around for 40 years. Bernie Sanders is the revolution that will forever change the way American politics is done.
I see Bernie Sanders as getting incredibly passionate about important issues that are deeply personal to the middle class.
This is the revolution, friends, in 2016. This is the change. This is the break in time. His name is Bernie Sanders. But unless celebrities start running every 4 years and taking over the Republican Party, Bernie Sanders is the revolution of 2016. Bernie Sanders, that is a systemic change. Just like the IT revolution,
They don't get his value.
that has broken down all of the boundaries that held back candidates like him. $27, $28 per contribution. All of those people lining up, organized online. He doesn't go to Wall Street. He doesn't go to K Street. He doesn't go to the watering holes that you got to go to. He's changed politics, and history will show that.
So it seems like you sort of contradicted yourself there, didn't you, Mr. Joe?
If the Democrats were to nominate somebody like Bernie Sanders next time, is it going to move beyond the coast?
No.
Oh, my God, no.
No.
So, with Bernie being the most popular politician, constantly polled as the most popular politician in America, and with him being able to reach the voters that they say a Democrat needs to reach, and being able to speak on the issues that Bernie speaks on, this blindness to Bernie's popularity and the power that he would have as a candidate is mind-boggling, especially considering that Morning Joe used to sing a very different tune.